but thanks for listening. Yeah. Hello, everybody, and welcome to We Say Things episode 222. Suns fan here with the Cinder, the man.
A rare one.
What, 222?
3 of the same digit, Shannon. The next time that's going to happen is in over 2 years.
That's right, syndereN. Very good math from you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You may have noticed we didn't have an episode last week. And why is that, syndereN?
It was because literally nothing happened.
I know that some people say that, you guys should still do a podcast, even if there's literally nothing noteworthy to talk about in Dota. And there's probably some people that will still reply in the comments and say, yeah, I'd love to hear about you guys talking about, you did laundry today and all that shit. I guarantee you 99% of people will not type how they actually feel in the comment section. It's going to be dog shit, okay? We took a week off.
There is something charming about an episode where we just talk about the most mundane shit the whole way through. Just recapping our day, nothing happened, went and did this and that nobody cares about. And then I went to the supermarket and they didn't have the pepperoni they usually do. And that was really annoying.
Oh, the pepperoni is very important, yes.
Yep. Well.
So yeah, that's why we are here now. Anywho, thank you to our beautiful patrons from the In Bruges tier specifically. Thank you to STGC Daniel. There was no cough in his name.
That would be nice, though.
Humbled Bookmaker recommends Cocoon. Suns fans chafed Travel Taint. Manscaped ad. Gets me every time. Mr. I Love the NBA segment recommends USA versus Spain's Olympics Finals, Beijing 2008. Really random.
Okay.
Really random. Let's see,
Finals of what?
I mean, it must have been the basketball since his name is I Love the NBA segment. 2008 would have had Kobe and LeBron.
Yeah, it is.
It was was that the Redeem Team? I think it might have been called the Redeem Team because we had lost.
Yeah.
I think there's a Netflix special about that. Anyway, Pepperballs, T-Coil, Q-Ludes is ready to praise the podcast. Stupid Copilot, Lab Dota, Yotaro does it again. syndereN, MagDev, there are billions of gamers on Earth and most haven't even heard of, let alone tried Dota, something marketing, and Disco Farm D.
Are there billions of gamers on Earth?
I think so. I would actually, yeah.
How many billions?
Well, there's 8 billion people in the world. How many people have a cell phone?
How many people on planet Earth? Yeah, okay, 8 billion.
Okay, and?
When are you a gamer? Is it if you've played a video game one time ever?
That's a good
question.
question.
It's philosophical right now.
That does. I would say no.
Okay. If it's somebody who actively plays games,
occasionally, it doesn't.
Does an eighth of the world's population actively play games? Maybe. Well, and that's only 1 billion. So then, I question your statement, patron.
Yep. Thanks for the money.
Go
ahead.
What was the last one you did? Disco Farm D?
Yeah.
The Mega Pope, Zan Xavier, Nate Thicko 01 Hamscroots. Yatoro does it again, syndereN. Shark TM, Janie, Dop, nothing to see here. Yves Raymond, Ben Broomhead has escaped climate change arena. It's called Climate Pledge. Maybe you were in the wrong arena the whole time. He misses the rats, they became his family. Oh, that's wholesome. Weren't you hunting them? Wooden Aftertaste, Anonymous, and the Shannon number is an estimate of chess complexity. Around 10 to the power of 120 possible legal games. Mr. Niebling. There you go. He followed through.
Why is it called that?
It's named after the guy who...
The guy?
Yeah.
It's a guy. Wow. That's a rarity.
The American mathematician Claude Shannon.
Oh, it's his first
name
is
Claude.
Fuck you. All right. That doesn't count.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
It was close enough.
All right, syndereN, you have some recommends for us?
I do. Okay, so this week I'm going to recommend something a bit different. This week I'm going to recommend Scrub Daddy. And now, before you go on Steam and you look up Scrub Daddy, I have not done that. I don't know what games you're going to find. Maybe it's going to be some sort of sexual fantasy game, or maybe it's going to be some sort of ASMR simulator or whatever, where Scrub Daddy is giving you a good scrub. I don't know. The thing I am recommending today is actually a physical sponge, Shannon. There's a sponge
Oh,
called Scrub Daddy. And the way we distribute the
I'm
main
gonna
chores we have
incognito
at
this.
home, the way we distribute our main chores at home is that I do the majority of the dishes and shopping, and Susie does almost all of the cooking. So that's how we distribute things. And after she got Scrub Daddy and I started using that for dishes, it's been really, really nice. So
I'm gonna put
the
a
way the
picture
sponge
on the stream, Cinder, and you tell me if it's
the
the
way
right
this
one.
sponge works is that I mean it's a sponge obviously when you put when you what's the word when you soak it in cold water it becomes harder and then like a rougher scrub, and when you soak it in hot water it becomes softer and then more spongy, which is a bit ironic because that would probably be the opposite of the water level in the video game Scrub Daddy, where it would work the other way around. Anyway, it's €2.5, 2.5 to €3,
Wow.
and it is value for money. I tell you, this sponge is really fucking good. So,
Is it the one that's on the screen? Is it a smiley face?
yes,
Okay.
it is.
Very nice.
Now, this is not a sponsored segment. I am very open to recommending stuff in my recommend segment if you do want to sponsor this. So, if you do work for something like Scrub Daddy and you would want to get a sponsored segment in, of course, I will consider it, but I will only promote your product if it's actually good.
On the other hand, I will promote it even if it's bad. That's why we work so well together.
Yes.
Although we haven't done that yet on the podcast, to my knowledge.
Scrub Daddy is banging. You should get one, Shannon, for your home.
So, okay, thank you. I'll let Nikki know.
Oh, it's also dishwasher safe. So if you scrub stuff and it gets dirty, you just throw it in the dishwasher and it comes out squeaky clean.
Wow.
Trust. It's value.
Oh, I trust. Don't worry. All right. First topic of Je Podcast. We thought we'd talk about some of these ESL bans. So this is my understanding, syndereN, and there wasn't really that many threads about it. It was mostly tweets, so it's hard to kind of capture what's happening. But there's a couple players that were banned, I believe, initially by Valve. So Valve, when they ban people for match fixing, it's lifetime bans.
Or cheating.
Or cheating.
Yeah.
Third-party tournaments, if you're running it and it's not connected to like the DPC, you don't have to follow any of those rules. And ESL, typically, depending on what the infraction is, they're not going to have lifetime bans as a standard thing. So
I think. I think I don't know if this is ESL specifically, but I think we've had similar examples in CS:GO where some players got banned for match fixing or cheating and eventually played competition again outside of Valve's circuit. So it's the exact same story. The Valve tournaments are off limits, but third party they got back. I may be wrong in saying this, but I think the maximum ban that ESL hands out is 3 years. Whereas for Valve, it's indefinite. And 3 years sounds about right? That's probably when the ban, so the ban we're going to be talking about here, or at least that's being referenced the most, is Limitless and Coma, which will be allowed to participate in tournaments from December 2024. They'll be unbanned and be able to play in ESL again. And there's pro player statements coming out about this, tweeting about it, how it's bad for the integrity of the game. These players should not get to play again. It should be an indefinite ban if you've ever match fixed or cheated, because who's to say you won't do it again? So I feel like we've talked about this a decent amount on the podcast already, how we have a different perspective on it. I actually like that it isn't a full-on lifetime ban, but that the ban is really serious the first time you get it. So it's not just like a slap on the wrist, okay, got away with it, kind of, but like a really serious, okay, you just lost a ton of your career to this huge mistake you made. We give you one more chance. As far as I'm concerned, stuff like this, you get 2 chances. Second strike, you're completely out.
I totally agree. I think the one thing that maybe people, like just saying that you don't think somebody should be permanently banned, I think some people might think that's a ridiculous thing to say. And I think in life, and I've learned this the hard way many times, as you get older, you start to, unless you just want to close yourself off completely, which is of course a choice, you start to try to look at things from other people's perspective. That's how you grow as a person. And I mean, there's no excuse for cheating, but sometimes these kids are literally taken advantage of from their orgs, from people around them. And I would say in some ways it's not their fault. I know that's weird to say out loud, but there's definitely been a lot of situations in the past where, let's say, just as a random example, I'm not going to name names, but somebody thinks that, look at it from like Quinn or Skeeter's position, right? They've been on some big orgs early on. They weren't on big orgs, but they were in regions that don't really participate in this stuff. I know there's some regions that are more likely to be involved. I think South America, China, and Eastern Europe are the three that come to mind initially, which is it's half the regions, which is sad. But I think different lifestyle, cost of living, not having money, org taking advantage of you as a young player. Like I think if there was like a 25-year-old that did this for the first time, I'd be more open to like permaban. Because you should know better, I would think, at that point, you know? But a lot of these are like, I think, was Smash like 15, 16 when he got permabanned?
I don't know. He was very young, at least.
Like, I don't know, man. Like, a 3-year ban is extremely severe. Like, in many cases, that ends your career, I would think. But I can understand the pro player's perspective from this, but at the same time, I just think a permaban in a lot of these situations is just too much. So yeah, they were, and I think still are, allowing those players to play now. And then
in December, those bans.
That's when it comes. Okay, so in December, and then to piggyback off of that, which not directly related, I guess, but within the same vein, Stinger was banned. Live during a tournament due to sharing his account. So it was like a Valve-related ban. They probably didn't even realize that it was connected. I don't know what the story is, but he got banned during an actual match, and I believe they had to forfeit the rest of the game, or at least play 4v5 or whatever it was, which is what the admin said, which I think is the fine decision, honestly. It's just comical, and you know, Valve has been doing a much better job of being on top of this type of stuff.
So I think the tricky thing about this kind of situation is that, so the reason Stinger's account got banned was for account sharing. He was having his teammates carry player play on his account, and it was blatantly obvious. And they were even talking about it publicly, I think, or something. So not even fully trying to hide it or whatever. Was the I don't know if that's better or worse, to be honest. When I think about it, but yeah, it was for account sharing. This isn't the first account that gets banned for that. Obviously, we had the example a couple of weeks ago with Mason's account that got banned for account sharing, where he had somebody try to raise the behavior score of his account for just a couple of days or something, and then the account got nuked. I would go out on a limb here and say it's not a coincidence that this happened during a game. I feel like this is a statement ban.
Okay.
Where, I mean, at the same time, that's kind of... It's kind of sinister, but at the same time, like...
That's awesome if it is.
You kind of also have to be a bit responsible for your actions, right? Like, if you look at this from Valve's perspective, let's say they have done this with players in the past or whatever, from their pub accounts or whatever, they ban the Smurfs, and then that happens, and then that account doesn't get played on anymore, and they play on another one. I feel like the magnitude of something like this happening and the amount of attention it gets and the impact it has is really... This is more powerful than banning like 20 pro player Smurfs, right? Because this one influenced a pro game. It was televised. It happened live that this player got banned during the game, which there was another clip linked where apparently this happened once in CSGO, where a player got VAC banned during a match. Obviously, you know, like...
It's funny you say that, because first of all, I didn't even consider that, because typically Valve is not that type of company. But I've said in the past, if I was a game dev, which I will be officially soon, this is the kind of thing I would do, because it's funny, number one, which is the most important thing, and it sends the message, which is pretty fucking important, especially if it's like for stuff like this. Even if it's a permaban, I'm fine with that, which is different than like the cheating thing. I know that cheating is more severe, but the ban is also more severe, right?
I mean,
banning
this
their
is
account
also not
it's a free to
Stinger
play thing.
play anymore.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
is this account has been account shared. It cannot be played on anymore.
Yeah.
Stinger can make a new Dota account and play tournaments. It's not like he is banned from competition.
Yep.
So, so I personally am in favor of, people account sharing, and I think it's really, really important that there is a shared standard among pros and among the community. So if you're account sharing, whether you're a 2000 MMR player sharing your account with a friend, or you're a top level elite pro player sharing it with a teammate, I think the punishment should be the same. So I don't
just
really
to be clear, syndereN, because you did just say, quote, what did you say? You said, you basically said that account sharing is fine, but I know you didn't mean it that way.
What?
The way that you worded it sounded like you were for account sharing, which I know you're not.
No, did I say that? I said I was for banning it.
Yeah, but you didn't say banning at the end. You're like, you're for account sharing, and then you moved on to
yeah, let's go, baby. No, so I think treating pro players and public players the same in this regard is really good. But, and this is the big but here, is that making an example of people is fine, but then you also really got to follow through, right? So there needs to be consistency. And shortly after this came out, I think it was one of Yatoro Smurfs that got banned. And obviously, we all care very much about what Yatoro has to say in particular. The community is very receptive to his perspective. And he was like, okay, my Smurf got banned. Miracle has 7 Smurfs. Why aren't his Smurfs getting banned? And then the next day, one of Miracle's Smurfs was banned. So, it's obviously a little bit of an undertaking to handle this from some dev at Valve, because I don't think this is fully automated, in which case it's very random how it selects which Smurfs are getting banned. So I think there's some manual stuff going on. But I think it's good. I think all pro players should have one account. I think they should play on that one. And I think it levels the playing field. If their perspective from the pro players is, but I want to practice heroes in secret, it's the same for everyone. Do it in scrims then. Like, play your public games on the one account you have, similar to everybody else. Because the thing that's really, in my opinion, is really stupid about this is technically the people who are, the people who are smurfing are trying to get a competitive advantage, but it's having a ripple effect on all the people who are not even playing competitively, right? Because they influence games where they're obviously overqualified for these games, and they're just going to have a high win rate. Even if they try new heroes and try new builds, they're just way better than the players they're playing with. So it just has a negative effect on the ecosystem in general of the integrity of the games and the quality that people experience when they play the game. So it's just worse for everyone. Literally, the only player that benefits from this system is the guy smurfing. And whether he does it for pro practice or for account selling or whatever, I don't really care, honestly. I wish this was never allowed to begin with, actually. I think it's a shame that it took this long. Like,
I think people are it's been so ingrained that
13 years.
The fact that they're fighting back about it just tells you how long it's been a thing, right? Because it's just how it's always been. But yeah, I agree.
This could have been the policy from day one in Dota.
Yes.
One account, one player, one account. There you go. And I think games would have been so much better. Yeah. In general, over the years. I mean, obviously this wasn't really a problem the first 2 years, right? Because people were probably playing like one account. But then over time, it's a compounding thing.
It's better late than never, though. I know I shit on Valve a lot, and this last year, 6 months, however long it's been extremely good. This is one of the best things they've ever done. And it's not like one of the... That's usually what Valve does. They'll do something occasionally really awesome, and then they'll just fucking forget about it. Just let it rot away. This is continuing to be a thing, which is fucking awesome. It's great.
Now that I've mentioned the possibility of this, do you think that it was... What do you think about the Stinger ban? I'm not sure if this was deliberately happening during a match, but now that you're considering the possibility, do you think it was on purpose that it happened during a game?
I would say...
Or is it just by chance because they're banning multiple Smurfs and that account just was in a match at the time?
I mean, you're saying that he was talking about it. Was he talking about it like on stream? like at that time?
Well, at that time, he was obviously playing the match, right? So,
Well, I mean, like
do you
on
just mean like surrounding that time? I don't want to. I don't want to get it wrong here. I just remember reading something about Parker. I think Parker was playing on the account for Stinger, and in the game he was playing. He was telling his teammates, "It's Parker playing this account. Let me play carry."
Hmm.
So he was maybe he wasn't streaming it, but he was definitely openly in team chat saying, "Hey, I am a Smurf of a pro player, and I am also a pro player,
Right.
or I'm a pro player playing on his friend's account. Let me have my role."
Mm-hmm.
Which I think a lot of the Smurfs that people are playing on are a little bit more careful than that, and they just play and pick. And if they don't get the role they want, despite being high rank, they just settle and do
I mean,
something
I'm
else.
just gonna
But
say I assume always with Valve that it's just a coincidence with something like that.
okay,
They don't seem like the diabolical type, which I am, and I would do that. If they did do that, kudos. Even if they didn't, it still worked out. So,
right.
and on top of that, there was a, I guess, pseudo announcement in Discord in terms of like ESL and DreamHack rule changes in regards to people getting banned for account sharing. They can still play in tournaments. So that just to make sure that people know that it's not like if you're account sharing, you're just banned from playing in tournaments again.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't say what happens if you're banned during the game itself. But I assume since you literally can't get that on an account during the game, so I assume you just forfeit, which is how it probably should be anyway. Yeah. Glad we get to talk about some good stuff with people getting banned over and over. This has been a subject that has continued to be fruitful for the last couple months. That's great. Let's talk quickly about some roster shuffles that have occurred. AUI has joined Falcons as a coach. So congrats to him. I'm sure he's getting paid out the ass because the Saudis are, got that oil money. Go ahead.
It's probably, I mean, obviously this is not particularly surprising considering he was the coach of Tundra and the core of Falcons, or at least Skitter as well as Snaking are there. And you would imagine Snaking in the 5 position and perhaps as one of the primary strategizers of that team had a good thing going with AUI when they won TI. Mm-hmm. So not really too surprising of a move. I think just track record wise, AUI is probably one of the best coaches in the world. So this is absolutely going to make the team better. The question is if he's been coaching them the whole time, right? Because this was just an announcement.
True.
He might have been coaching them all the time or the whole time while they were playing. And then the org was either slow to announce it or they weren't figuring out the contract and the terms until recently or whatever. Or maybe he took a little break, like who knows. But yeah, not surprised in the least to see this.
And, well, I guess piggybacking off of that, Tundra have been playing with Pure, who's on loan from BetBoom. So questions arise, is this going to eventually be their position 1? Would you like him as their position 1, syndereN?
I think
he's a beast.
This team on paper sounds awesome. It's quite the mix though of personalities and cultures. So I don't know if there's going to be some potential issues there, but just like player quality wise, I think it's very good. And I think one of the things this team has done well in its construction is that they have a good mix of experienced elite players that have won big tournaments like Mind Control and Thompson. But then they also have up-and-comer position 4 and 9 class who is very good. Whitemon is like somewhere in the middle. He hasn't won a lot of major tournaments, but he does have the experience as position 5. And then Pure is, I mean, at this point when we talk about experience, right, I guess we also kind of need to consider, okay, the players that we consider experienced are starting to be, very experienced. Like, when are you an experienced pro? Is it 2 years of pro play, 3 years? Because then suddenly some of the names where we're like, yeah, this guy's still new to the scene. They're like, you check them, and you're like, wait, their first pro game was 3 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And actually, Pure joined Virtus Pro in 2021 in November. So arguably, he's also starting to be quite experienced when you think about it. But obviously, putting him compared to Mind Control and Thompson, they've been playing for for quite a lot longer.
Yeah, and the cool thing from a spectator standpoint, at least, is Pure gets to go back to what he originally was known for, which is a beast of a position one, because he'd been playing. I mean, we talked about this with the Bet Boom roster, that they just had a bunch of cores playing in random ass roles. I mean, Nightfall's really good at position one. Pure also very good at position one, but he had to play off lane. Now he gets to go back to his comfort zone, and I think from like a Pure, no, that's no pun intended. Pure as a player, I know has been kind of controversial with a lot of the Russian related stuff, which is obviously we've said in a couple of podcasts that at times he acts like a fucking idiot, but he is very young, obviously. But from just pure spectating, I think he might be, for me, like a top 3 most fun to watch position one, because he plays Pudge. He plays like these big fatty heroes, and he does extremely well on them. So excited to see if that continues to be a thing for Tundra or not, because I agree they have a very interesting roster.
I also think that people, I mean, obviously for entertainment value, we've talked about this a lot in the past, that people loved watching Eternal Envy because of the high highs and the low lows.
Yeah, true.
We don't really have a player with that extreme polarization anymore. But I think in the carry role, one of the examples that we have right now is Duracho for Gaming Gladiators, who people love to watch because he can really pop off and he's super aggressive. But he also has these facepalm moments where he literally will facepalm on camera. People love that shit, right? When they can tell the player is frustrated with their mistakes. Pure, for me, is a little bit in the same vein, where his ceiling is extremely high, and he's a very aggressive player. And sometimes he will make moves that he will take high risks that have high rewards, but also sometimes it's just a blunder, right? And that's fun to watch. So that also goes hand in hand with his picks, as you said, right? He will play high risk heroes and try to push them to the limit, and sometimes he'll go too far. So I agree. Very fun player to watch. And the cool thing about players like this, like Duracho and like Pure, is it's kind of what I would say Topson also found his fame on OG when he played mid, was people will remember these games where Topson was going absolutely crazy around the map, just popping off, and kind of selectively forget the games where Topson really would just fuck up, you know? Like, he had games where he was like, okay, what the hell is Topson doing? And OG would still find a way to win, but that's just how it is when you're playing like that. When you are playing hyper aggro, mistakes are bound to happen. But I'll tell you one thing for sure, playing against players like that is really difficult. It's always harder to play against aggression than people that are conservative, because they keep you on your toes. You don't know what the next move is, and your framework for how other teams play Dota kind of goes out the window sometimes, because, wait, why the hell is he there? And he's showing on the map, and you're like, oh, this is definitely bait. Nope, he was just farming mega aggressively on his own, and then you get caught somewhere else. It's cool. It's exciting, and it's high risk.
It's funny because in Counter-Strike, not to change the subject, but you have situations where, and I've talked about this before, where somebody is so bad or so good, like you can't predict what they're doing because their level of play is just drastically either worse or better. Whereas in Dota, you don't see it. It's not as obvious, I feel like, sometimes. But
I agree.
That's the way that you kind of illustrated what Topson does is actually pretty cool. One thing I did want to mention, Pure is still the youngest person on this roster. He's 19. How is that possible? Been playing for fucking 3-4 years now. Jesus, man. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, he got his first pro game when he was like 16 or 17, right? So
insane.
That's how old is 9 class? He's 20. Okay.
Yeah. Topson's 25 now.
Yep.
Mind control.
Yeah, time flies. You know, the youngster is in the middle of the pack now, and it feels like it was not that long ago that he won TI, but it's been 5.5 years. So
true.
You know, it's time waits for no one, Shannon.
This is true. All right, next thing on the list, we have a couple Slacks related things.
Oh yeah, my favorite.
So Midas, he didn't make an official announcement. I mean, I guess he did on his stream, and then somebody made a thread about it, but he didn't make anything official. But anyway, Midas Mode 3, I assume is what it will be called, has been kind of announced. I'm just going to read what the guy said. obviously I may know something more than is being shown here, so I don't want to overstep my bounds, but Sir Action Slacks announced on stream that Midas Mode is to be revived and reworked into a narrative-driven story on custom map where viewers support a house/faction led by streamers and win money. Full prize pool targeted at 500k to be distributed entirely to viewers of winning faction, while all-star players would be paid salary. Quote, getting entire teams is too difficult. Sir Action Slacks looks for feedback. Is giving money to fans weird? Would viewers be interested/invested? Does this deserve to exist? So just based on that alone, syndereN, what do you think?
Lax, if you're watching, I would love to play in this. But I would also love to be a viewer, whichever gets paid more. I'm ready.
Well, you want to play, cast, and be a viewer. Get
at the same
money.
time.
Yeah, that's good.
I don't know. I thought the first two Midas modes were really fun. I think having unique tournaments that kind of serve as what's the right word for this? Just a break from the same competitive captain's mode everywhere, but still with recognizable faces, I think is really good. The fans loved the previous two Midas modes, so I'm obviously massively on board with this idea. The new concept that he's going for here, I think Slacks is super creative and has really cool ideas, and I think something like this could be really, really good. But I'm not gonna sit here and say this is just gonna be absolutely fantastic. But I just want to see it.
Mm-hmm.
It's different. It's fun. The idea of a house or faction, like fans kind of fighting each other in that sense, I think it's really, really good. It's like you have a home team. It's a bit similar to, like, the way you invest in this is a bit more similar to sports, I would say. So I like it. I think it sounds fun. Is giving money to fans weird? Not really. I mean, as long as the tournament is sustainable and the setup makes sense, I don't see a problem with this inherently. My biggest question is how much time this is going to take to make, right? And how much work it's going to be.
So this
Slacks sometimes has major projects.
Slacks in general, he comes up with crazy fucking ideas.
Yeah.
And then by the end of, let's say, by the time we start working on it, so basically what happens, you brainstorm something, you whittle it down to whatever product you want to do, and then you start the project, right? Mm-hmm. By the time you whittle it down based on his original idea, it's down from like 100 to like 20. You've basically cut 80% of what he wanted because it's fucking ridiculous. But this is the thing. Slacks was always doing this with Moonduck, right? So we had other people that would chip in occasionally. Most people would just fuck off, of course, which is why the studio died, basically. But we try to bring Slacks down to earth. I think this time, the only thing he's limited by, because he's nothing else, is just money. If he can get the money to do this, and of course the time, if he wants to do it this year, that's pretty ambitious, but we'll see. If he has both of those, and he has the right support staff, because he's working with WePlay and all these other people now, so he has, like, I guess we can just include this. He's working with the NFL, doing content. Like, he's a big boy now. He has a lot of connections, so if he can bring those all together, then yeah, this could be one of the greatest tournaments of all time. It's a crazy fucking idea, though. It's out there, which is on par with most of his ideas, like I said. So the question is, who's whittling this down, or is it being whittled? Because I would personally love to just see what happens with his crazy idea with nobody doing anything about it. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Like
I know exactly what
if there isn't a me in this scenario that is like, no, that's a stupid idea, that's ridiculous, it's way too hard to do. If you just have nobody giving him any negative feedback and just yes men, I want to see what happens.
I mean, the biggest concern with that is if you think too big, then you end up with a product that doesn't ship, right? That's my biggest concern here, is that the grounding factor on some of Slacks' ideas is the reason that they finish, even though they maybe don't finish exactly the way he wants them to.
Yeah.
It's still better if he gets out a finished product rather than if he shoots for the stars and it gets a little bit too ridiculous and can't actually be followed through with, but nobody tells him that this is not possible and you're just working on it. Because at the end of the day, then you're just wasting your time, right? We don't want that for anyone. So, but I know exactly what you mean, and I wish him all the success possible with this idea, and I hope it works out. And I hope that if he only has yes men, that he doesn't work himself to death on this project, right? That it doesn't get too ridiculous. Because I mean, we're making this sound like he's making a AAA title on his own or whatever. It's not like that, but the amount of work that goes into making custom stuff in Dota and just having it be functional already is a lot. And then when you want these like essentially, I'm assuming you need some sort of significant third-party plug-in stuff for this to work or whatever, however you're going to set this up. There's a lot of moving parts. You're working with custom games in Dota, which in itself is really brave. So, who knows what's going to happen. But I guess as far as the monetization stuff with Dota, I assume this isn't going to be a problem because he's making the custom game, but the monetization will be separate from it entirely. Like the game itself is not making the money; it's the fans, right? So maybe
I'm sure Valve will be okay with this because this is a tournament or whatever. But yeah, that alone, just the payments to viewers, I can't even fucking imagine how you even do that to begin with.
Yeah,
like it's part of it probably depends on what partnerships he ends up getting. Maybe he could ease that in, like with some sponsor. When he did Midas Mode was that 2018? Has it been 6 years now?
2017.
I've never seen him that. It was the end of 2017, right? I've never seen him that stressed before, and that was also with a custom game that was crashing constantly. It was actually parts of the tournament. I don't know if people even remember anymore, but parts of it were just disaster. The fucking map kept breaking over and over. And then the economy was busted. We had a lot of internal meetings in the back that are very memorable to this day. And never seen him that stressed before. And I remember him saying, "I'm never doing this again, ever." And I believed him, but I guess all it takes is 6 years of not doing it to be refreshed. Time. Yes. So I wish him luck. It sounds really cool. Obviously, you have to do it during a time where there's not like a big tournament, and there's just so many little things. I'm glad I don't have to organize because I hated this aspect. Getting players to show up, like the payments for the fans, making sure that your tournament doesn't clash with any other tournaments. Like there's just, my God, getting enough money. It's just endless. I mean, the good thing is that, well, I don't know if he even mentioned, maybe I don't know. I'm guessing there's no LAN portion. If there is, that adds another layer of complexity.
Oh, yeah.
Like with logistics
getting all the
and
fans that need to get paid to LAN. Imagine that. You get
God.
flown out so you can get paid to watch.
I would not want to work on this tournament because it just sounds way too hard. But if he pulls it off, it'll be great.
One major upside here is the cooperation with WePlay could be really helpful here, right? Like, if this is an idea that they are sold on and they want to help out with, you've got a really skilled crew that can help on different aspects, right? And can do a lot of the stuff in-house, and if not, probably know a lot of people that can do the kind of work you need. So hopefully, if this is the thing, then Slacks doesn't have to absolutely spearhead and manage everything. But he can be like the creative director behind all of it, have all the ideas, have the vision, and then other people can help with, actually implementing stuff. Because otherwise, if he has to manage everything, I feel like this will be a full-time job. Just this one event will be a full-time job from the beginning of the idea phase until the tournament has finished. I feel like this will take up all of your time.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, and I'm imagining that this is not his primary thing, right? Because he's, like you said, he's working with the NFL and with WePlay already, so he can't allocate 40 hours a week to this. I think that's a bit. Maybe he'll find a way, I don't know. Slacks is a special beast.
Yep, he always finds a way. So good luck to him. Looking forward to that. Final topic of this evening.
You've guessed it. It's 2 letters and they're both vowels.
AI added again. I don't know what to do. There's always news on it. I'm not even looking for it anymore. It just pops up. So first, I have these in the wrong order, but the Finals, which is an FPS game, I've never played it before, but I've been told it's not a battle royale, which surprised me because I thought for sure it was, but apparently it's not. Anyway, it uses AI announcers, which is like the guys you hear it's like they're broadcasting it almost, but in the game while you're playing. Like the fact that they use AI and nobody knew that for a while, it's pretty wild. But then it begs the question, like, okay, I thought Steam or Valve as a company didn't allow AI at all, and these guys are just getting away with it. And then a few days later, Valve came out with an announcement. Today, after spending the last few months learning about this space and talking with game developers, we're making changes to how we handle games that use AI technology. This will enable us to release the vast majority of games that use it. So this is after them basically saying it wasn't allowed, but we need some time to understand the space, and now they have been given that time, and they're allowing it for the most part. I'm sure that the most egregious uses will not be in. So what do you think about that as a whole? Do you think that is... Do you feel one way or another about it?
I mean, we usually, every time we talk about AI, we're both very intrigued and very fascinated by the technology, and you're, in my opinion, overly optimistic, and I'm maybe overly skeptical. Which I think is a good dynamic because I feel like both viewpoints.
Yeah, we're on opposite ends.
Yeah. So I think it's very important that, I mean, first of all, the fact that Valve is, being considerate of the fact that AI has the potential to be a problem is a good sign and a good look as far as I'm concerned. That they didn't just immediately say like, "Oh, you guys are using AI? Cool. We love this technology too. Do whatever the fuck you want on Steam." That they're aware of the ethical dilemmas and the potential issues with this, so they're treading carefully. I think that's good to see. And I don't personally have a problem with AI being used for games as long as it's used in the right way. And that's where it gets difficult, right? Is, as usual, the gray area of, okay, who actually owns the stuff that's being used? Are you exploiting people to generate this AI content and they don't see a cent on the dollar of what is actually being made on the game? Those are the problems that will be there. But inherently, like, AI and what it can do is really fucking cool. We're very well aligned in that. I find that when you talk about it, you maybe don't pay enough mind to the pitfalls of it, and you just love the cool shit.
Because we're gonna figure it out. People like
that's what
society
people
will
say,
figure it
right?
out.
No, it's fine, guys. This is cool. Trust me, But yeah, I hearing this, that AI is being used to make a game, no problems with that whatsoever, as long as it's done quote unquote ethically, and that's what's hard. And I don't know how Valve are going to monitor this. They clearly put some thought into this, and they said we're allowing it to an extent. I don't know what the extent is or whatever, but as long as they do some sort of internal vetting, that's cool. The problem is, though, how can you tell, right? That was as you mentioned, a lot of people played this game and didn't know. So how's Valve gonna know whether this is happening in the way that it's supposed to, etc., etc. It's so difficult to. I
feel like from a dev standpoint, like if you're gonna be, like, it's too much of a risk not to just be upfront. I feel like, unless you're really trying to get away with something like mega sleazy, and you're not I don't know. I'm trying to think of, like, if you actually have a player base and you're just not upfront about it, you have the risk of just having your game not on Steam anymore. That's kind of a big deal, don't you think? So
yes,
considering that they're now allowing it, right? Considering they're now allowing it within certain whatever the terms are, I feel like that's not as big of an issue. But the way that you're talking about is more about for other aspects, like using, like, what is infringement when it comes to AI art? because it's using a bunch of
Right.
people's art technically to make it, right?
Mhm.
But it's very small
Yeah.
snippets to the point you can't even recognize it anymore. Typically, if you transform something, if something's transformative, even like a video, like people that post, I know that Valve doesn't care about like TI, people reposting the video, but most broadcasts will care about that kind of stuff. But if you
Right.
make it transformative enough where you put like your camera on it, you talk about it, that's why like the reaction videos are allowed. It's
Mhm.
because it's transformative. So you could make the argument that AI is the same way, but it's just different because it's not a person doing it, right? It's just
It's
weird.
different because it's not a person doing it, and it's different because it's not the transformation isn't showing, right? If you're doing a reaction video, the original content is there, and you can reference the
Right.
original content. If you're doing an AI piece of art that is drawing on different people's works, nobody can credit, including the AI. So if you are actually using people's ideas, and it is in some cases just flat out plagiarism, people will be able to identify that I have seen this before, but you won't, like, the AI will not be able to take responsibility, and the problem is the people using it won't either because they couldn't have known necessarily.
Well, why can't AI why can't they give credit though? Theoretically, they should be able to very easily. Let's say you ask it to draw a picture of something and it takes
Yeah.
like small snippets of art from like 10,000 things. That's probably what it takes, is like 10,000 different pictures to make something look totally different. Like it's not recognizable at all. That's 10,000 people that are credited. Like, does that really solve anything? I doubt it.
No, because at that point you're not crediting anything, right? Like
Yeah.
if you're
It's like
if you're
borrowing
drawing
a couple
inspiration
pixels from something. You know?
Yeah. So then that's also not meaningful, right? It's a complicated thing. I think that's also why, I mean, obviously we don't have the answers here, then we would be working with that, right?
We have every answer, syndereN.
But it's
Somewhere in between your opinion and mine is the answer.
there is a very good chance on pretty much every topic that we talk about that the truth is between you and I. There's a very good chance on most stuff.
So piggybacking off this a bit, some guy, I mean, I don't want to play the video or anything. Let me make sure it doesn't play. Okay. Some guy used OpenAI Vision API plus, what does TTS stand for? That's
Text to speech.
text to speech, to commentate a League of Legends game. So basically what happened is he set it up in a way that you play the video and the AI can detect what's kind of happening, but it takes like snapshots. So it takes like a picture every 5 seconds or whatever it is, and it analyzes what's in that picture and it commentates it. Obviously, it's very rough around the edges, but the idea is there. Do you think our jobs are in trouble?
I think it's very clever selectively to choose League of Legends for this, because all the AI needs to do is say nothing for 25 minutes, and then there's one team fight that it needs to cast, and then whoever won that wins the game. So it has cast the game then. So it's definitely an easier one for implementation.
That's a big
I mean, it's
burn.
just another use case of what's really fascinating about this. Do I think my job is at risk? No, not from this. I also think there's, like, I wonder how it trains. You know, what does this learn from? Is it just sampling
that's the
other
thing, though.
commentary?
That's the thing. So this is why it's so interesting. So, of course, and I sympathize with like artists that potentially have their, I don't know if that many, well, I could be wrong. I don't know how many artists are actually losing jobs to AI right now, but the fact that you can go make something crazy using AI and now use it in games theoretically, I would assume some people are going to lose their jobs potentially, but it just depends. But I would say AI art is at a point where it's actually, like, we're having the conversation, can it replace an artist on a team? Like, that's a legitimate question, right? In 5 years, we're going to have the same conversation about what this is, commentating a league. Like, theoretically, Valve could just have an AI train for however many years, and it could just literally cast what's happening. But of course, it's going to lose the personality, which is a big part of the casting. That's humans.
That's the thing, right? Is like,
but can it develop its own personality?
It's almost on like a philosophical level, right? As if, like, let's say it casts really well, are people even going to be receptive to that if they know it's an AI and not a person? Is it going to feel inauthentic even though?
Right.
Because I mean,
That's a good question.
if you have an AI commentate a game, I don't think you're going to go out of your way to try to, how to say, you're not going to lie to the audience and pretend it's a real person, right? Because at that point you're just being facetious.
Okay, let me ask you a separate question, but it all relates. Do you feel like, just think about the future, try to open your mind. Do you think that there's going to be, and maybe there already are this and I don't know, in like, let's say 10 to 15 years, do you think kids growing up with this stuff already existing, will there be like huge fans for like an AI band, an AI group, like singer or something like that? Like you literally go to a concert and an AI is playing, because I do believe, I'm not saying it replaces every band. I think that will exist, and I'm very confident it will exist. So the question is, why can't that also work in other mediums? You know, in 15 years, that's a lot of time.
I think in the concert example, I'm assuming people would go to that kind of concert not to experience the personality of the AI, but to experience the vibe of everyone around them, right? And the social experience of going to that versus, say, it's like, let's say you go to a concert of a band you've never watched before and have no attachment to. You can still have a great experience if the crowd is good, if it's fun, if it's a nice trip, you're going with friends, whatever. I feel like that's the kind of interaction that people would have with an AI band, is that maybe they like the music, so they are happy to hear it live, but the draw would be to experience that thing with other people, right? It's also the classic discussion you've probably heard this a lot, where people are like, why do so many people go to watch DJs just put on music and play their stuff instead of musical artists performing live on their instruments, and the DJ just starts the track and maybe turns some knobs, this kind of blah 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 discussion always. And the counter argument is always, it's a huge experience whether or not the DJ is actually playing the instruments live or not. People go there because of the atmosphere, because of the vibe, the feel you get for being at that kind of concert. So this is kind of it's just an extreme version of that, right? Just that now you even remove the DJ and the music is just playing.
Yeah. It's a robot.
So, I mean, yeah. I think you're right. I think this is probably going to happen, but I mean, I would like to think this isn't going to just flat out replace, because
I don't think so.
let's imagine a world where AI completely figures out humanity and what makes us tick with music, and they make all the best music ever. So all the top 100 billboards is all AI generated songs, because that's what people like the most. I would still like to think the human element is important enough that people will still want to, listen to music that is made by people because of that personality, the human connection that you can't really fully replace. But who knows? Like you said, maybe AI eventually will be so human-like that you can't tell the difference.
So I know this isn't the same thing, but it really isn't the same thing, but I think you can find the connection again. Nikki was telling me that there's kids that are growing up that are very good with like gadgets, right? That literally do not know how to attach something to an email because they never had to.
Right.
Because they've never had to go on an actual, like, their email is, well, typically they don't use email, but they use apps for everything, right? Like there's so much stuff that we know from like the 10, 15 years of computers starting to be a thing and getting very popular that they actually don't need to know technically, which is weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like with AI, people are going to literally grow up with this stuff just being normal. And I can't imagine how different culture will be as a result, or society.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
It's really strange to think about.
That's what's really powerful and also really worrisome at the same time, because if people grow up with this as the norm, and you can use AI to be extremely, how to say, AI could indoctrinate, for example, extremely effectively, right? Or generate a world for people that isn't real, but that they think is real, right? And if you grow up with that and it's not managed well, then Yeah, it's just easy to imagine in a really dystopian perspective how powerful this tool is for people with bad intentions, like how they could use this and exploit the crap out of it.
Yeah.
Um, and I think your example is really a good one of that. Like if you grow up with this being the norm and you just teach people that what they're seeing is normal and real, the way you can shape the world. It's like such a fucking Black Mirror episode, waiting
But
to
this
happen.
is the reason that AI is so fascinating to me is, first of all, I don't generally when you have something that is this game changing, there's going to be risks and like negative things towards it. If there weren't, then it wouldn't be game changing. You know what I mean? So
Right.
that's what's so fascinating about it. And I feel very lucky that we're in, that this is happening right now because it's just crazy to see this like just grow so fast right in front of us. But there are, I mean, I agree with you. There's a lot of, it's like a slippery slope mentality, I guess, which I'm not a big fan of that mentality overall, but there's obviously some truth to it with any technology. And I just have faith that we will figure it out, hopefully. But hopefully it's going to be something that can help us in everyday life because it's helping me a little bit here and there. I've basically replaced Google. I Google things. Like, let's say out of 100, I Google things, it's down to like, it's probably a 50-50 now between, and my phone just activated because it heard the word. ChatGPT, I just want to be able to say that. Talk to my ChatGPT woman that talks back to me. It's great, man. It's good stuff. I'm very lonely. And then the final part of this AI topic is MSI is apparently releasing a new gaming monitor that uses AI in a very interesting way, which we'll talk about whether you like that or not. It essentially, what's the way that they kind of illustrate it is it takes things that are existing on your screen and makes them more known to you. So like if it's League of Legends and there's a hero that's in vision, it kind of blows up the mini-map version, like the character unit or whatever in the mini-map, and it just puts it on the right, like the top right of your screen, so you know that they're coming from that direction, which I would consider to be kind of cheating, even though it's using, okay, so you know these programs that people use to like help them out in the game? Technically, it's not cheating, I think, but I still consider it cheating, where it's taking in-game UI and just blowing it up in the way that's not supposed to be the way that you're playing the game. But the thing that's concerning about this is that it's doing it through the monitor. So there's actually no way to detect, like with anti-cheat or anything like that. The only thing you could do, which maybe it's easy and I'm an idiot, is just detect what kind of monitor they're using and if it is using that type of technology. But this is what I would consider a slippery slope. Like, this is fucking weird.
For me, this kind of thing is a really big problem for competitive integrity in video games because, like, let's say Dota is a perfect example of this. This monitor could just see, oh, black hole was cast on the screen. Like, if you teach it what spells look like, then it could just track all your cooldowns for you of the enemy team. There can just be like a little box on the right that's like, black hole is up in 80 seconds. Oh, they use global silence.
That's true.
Blah, blah,
blah.
Wow. You literally just track everything in the game and you can customize what information you want to have available. There are, I believe, or at least there was, in the past, there were cheats that were cooldown tracking, for example, and that were just straight up cheats in Dota, right? Because this is information that you're not supposed to.
Yeah.
Technically, as a human being, if you had this ability to track literally everything on the screen and just have an internal clock, this would be humanly possible. Like, the cheat was technically using stuff that is available to you, because you do see all the spells being cast. The cooldowns are inherently known, right? But it's inhuman to be able to track 7 spells down to the perfect second, right? That's what this monitor could do for you. In a game like Counter-Strike, it could track all sorts of utility usage from the enemy team. It could
track your like how much money you have and all that.
It could tell you how much money each player on the enemy team could have. It could,
which is funny because
a heat map of where the enemy could possibly be based on where it was 10 seconds ago. You know,
like, it's funny though because
this is how far they could have made it.
Valorant you actually can see. That's part of the game is you can see how much money everybody has, which CS doesn't have. But no, I understand what you're saying. Like the Dota examples, I didn't even think of that's actually possible. You literally have all the cooldowns like on the side of your screen, and you can just see them at all time. The only thing is, it would have to be something that was technically visible on the minimap, like outside of Fog of War, right? So technically, it's not. There's got to be a better term for this, because technically it's not cheating, but it is. You know, like how would you even describe that?
You're not gaining information that is impossible to gain, but the way it's presented to you is in a way that you could never do yourself. So it's like, yeah, it is cheating. Like, to me, it's just cheating.
It's
but
like taking
it's
these tools that people use for other aspects of the game, but in a much more, I would think, it's just a worse way. Like
it's just a different type of cheating than map hack, right? Because in map hack, you get information that is not supposed to be available to anyone. But in this, it's just you're getting information in a way that is inhuman. It's just not possible to handle that, which is also part of the reason. I think this was part of the discussion that Valve probably had about coaches in Dota and CSGO at the time, was the coaches are allowed to be there in the draft and then they have to leave. And it's because if the coaches are there during the game, the amount of influence they can have on keeping track of all sorts of stuff is not something the players are able to do while playing. And you could argue that would just be, the coach would be the sixth player and this would be a skill. But I think Valve found that the way that it would impact the game would be a net negative in terms of the naturalness of the flow, the way teams surprise each other, what makes cool moments, what makes the game fun to watch, right? Because technically, if there's a sixth player, I'm sure the level of play over time with a coach in the server will be higher, but that doesn't mean it'll be more fun and a better sport.
I think for Dota, it would be terrible. I don't see how CS would be that bad, though. I
think it's less important in CS. I would agree with that.
CS, I would think, from a spectator standpoint, it would make things a little bit more interesting, actually, but I'm sure there's some downsides.
Yeah.
But like the coach actually calling like each play, that's how, like, I think that's cool. But yeah, it's very strange. So this is an MSI monitor that will be released soon, apparently, for like $1,200. And I will pretty much guarantee you that this will be part of anti-cheat software to be able to check what kind of monitor you're using, and it just will not be allowed. But that, of course, I don't know how you do that in like pubs. Like Dota doesn't have any real anti-cheat, right?
I mean, there's already a little bit of a barrier of entry into pro gaming in terms of having a setup that runs the game well. So obviously, players that have a high-end computer will have an advantage over people playing on 60 FPS or whatever. You'll just inherently have an advantage. If we reach a point where you need to start buying AI tools that cost $1,200 per piece to not be playing at a disadvantage, that sounds shit for level of entry. Because a lot of the players that, make it don't start off with a lot to spend, and they will maybe miss out on their chance just strictly out of that. Then that would also really be shit. So, yeah. Again, it's another example. The technology, it sounds so fucking cool, but holy shit, you can do a lot of exploitative garbage.
Yep. This is a bad use. Bad use case, MSI. Just, bad boys and girls.
But for single player stuff, I mean, it's fine, right? Like if it isn't interrupting any competition, then if this enhances your individual experience playing an RPG or, whatever, I mean, cool. If it gives you quality of life and you're having a better time, that's great. It's just, again, the potential downsides are.
So I actually disagree a little bit. I know what you're saying, and I think from a game designer's perspective, I want the game to be played the way I designed it. So
right.
I personally wouldn't be okay with them adding a bunch of shit. Now, if they're doing it like in conjunction with the developer, then that's different, right?
Right.
Like they're basically doing the dev's job for them. And the devs are like, okay, yeah, this would actually make the game better. We can do that. That's fine. But I don't like the idea of somebody having like a giant mini map for Dota on their third monitor that they can see at all times.
I think this would be the most elegant implementation of something like this. If MSI are the first movers on this and they get a good proof of concept and it is well received what the monitor can do, I think if this is something where devs and MSI work together on their product and enhance it with this AI so that it's the dev that chooses what the AI can do.
Yeah.
I think that would be the best. That's the best of both worlds, is where MSI have the tech and they reap the benefits, and they're going to obviously have some monetary incentive to have devs use this. And for the devs, it might save them a lot of time, or it might help them enhance their product, and they are in the driver's seat of how it is imagined. I think that is a very good way of doing it. But it doesn't sound, based on the wording and the way this is presented, like that is the intent, right?
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like, oh, take this game you already know, and we're gonna make it better for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's AI. It's happy
Gotta love
episode.
that. Love myself some AI.
I mean, AI, it's just moving so fast. There's always like these fascinating articles. It brings up some interesting talking points. I don't know.
I mean, I think it's very good that you bring so much attention to it, because a lot of this is information that I wouldn't find on my own. So you're kind of just keeping everybody up to date with it, including me, on what's moving.
I feel like I'm not looking for this stuff. It's just the normal sites I go to have articles about it. So
yeah,
I just noticed. It sounds like you don't surf the web, syndereN.
I read Reddit.
Yep. Gotta expand a bit.
But I don't read Reddit all. So I don't, I don't see
okay, so
everything.
you're really closed off. So it's just Dota and WoW. That's all you know. And poker. Sorry. My bad.
Also, kids are fucking stupid. That's a good one, too.
Yeah, that's a classic.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Thank you all for watching. I know next week you said we can't do it on the same time, right?
Right.
So when is the next episode?
That's TBD. It could either be a bit later in the day. I guess that doesn't work for you. Maybe we do it a day before or the day after. Like, we'll figure it out. But it's just not going to be.
If there's something big that happens, we can do it earlier. Otherwise, it will generally be later.
Just do it. Either, if there's big news, we do it pre. Otherwise, I expect this to be, I guess we'd just say normal time on the Friday, maybe.
We could do a guest episode.
Like a day later.
Actually.
Or a guest, If there's a guest, we will pre-record it.
Okay, I'll try to set something up. We'll see.
Okay. Cool.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Until next time, peace.
Bye-bye.
We say things that don't mean anything.
Subscribe.
Thanks for listening.